music just for you on Radio 2.
Time now to join Jonathan Hewitt for the third in the series of programmes highlighting things that didn't go quite as they should on radio stations around the world. Oh, can I take that again?
Well, it's not up to me, but to my mind, you ought to be tucked up in bed with a hot water bottle. We can't have people on the radio with colds, can we?
And now it's time for the Monday Job Spot. Taking a look at local employment prospects is Paul Bear. Excuse me. I said I had a cold.
And even the common cold can be an expensive complaint if you've booked a complete orchestra into the studio for a recording session. Still, most music's on record these days, and there's not much that can go awry with a disc.
Last record on the programme now, and it's a 1974 musical memory recalling the summer of 74. It's the Bay City Rollers.
You looked inside my fantasies and made each one.
Yes, well, it's not the Bay City Rollers, it's the wrong speed, but apart from that, we're okay. It's, I don't know who it is, but whoever it is that they've got on there, we're playing it and I hope you enjoy it.
Apart from getting the speed right, a DJ needs to keep an ear open during the news bulletins to make sure that his choice of music doesn't clash with the stories.
From the KYUU newsroom, it is now reported at least 60 injuries at 3 hospitals around the Calexico, El Centro area, where that major earthquake took place at 4:16 this afternoon. In Calexico, buildings were toppled, broken water mains. There are no immediate reports of deaths from that earthquake at 4:16 this afternoon. And if you're a tourist, welcome to the land of rock and roll. This is 99.7 KYUU.
I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down.
The same sort of embarrassing situation can arise the other way round, too. If there's a public service announcement coming up, a simple remark before it can take on a whole new meaning.
My Sharona by the Knack. Find out what Billy Idol's been up to in just a second or two.
The Lifeline service offers pregnancy testing and counselling to any woman or girl who thinks she may be pregnant.
Public service announcements are usually pre-recorded so they can be played into various programmes throughout the day. This also allows the announcer to get it absolutely perfect.
Photography for the disabled. 190 secret house. And nobody knows where it is.
In a news bulletin where there's various interviews and reports from correspondents, most of them are pre-recorded on tape, for very good reasons.
There was a run on wildlife dung during the recent visit of the Gemini circus to Kisumu. The buyers were local people who wanted to use the dung for traditional medicine. The excreta of elephant, lions and tigers were in big demand. According to one source, a small heap... According to one source, a small heap of elephant... Oh, God, sorry. We're away. According to one source, a small heap of elephant dung... According to one source, a small heap of elephant dung weighing about 100 grams. Oh, God. According to one source, a small heap of elephant dung weighing about 100 grams was being sold for 5 shillings. Lion dung... Well... We've got to lion dung anyway, we're getting there.
Well, they've obviously got problems. Heaps of them.
Lion dung, which was rare, sold for twice as much. So it's just a disappointed man now, isn't it?
They're not going to make it this time. Still, what's one less story in a bulletin going out to 40 million listeners?
This is London. 17 hours Greenwich Mean Time. Well, we seem to be having problems, I'm afraid, bringing you the news right at this very moment. So let me, in fact, tell you that after the news, we'll be hearing all about books and writers. And in 3/4 of an hour's time, we have Sports Roundup on the air for you. But in the meantime, until we can, in fact, provide some music for you, let me play you some music. Well, I don't know. We seem to be having all sorts of problems here. I can't even make my record player play for you. So let me, in fact, go a little further ahead and tell you, if you can still be with us, about Outlook, which is on the air at, in fact, this evening, 19:29 approximately. And that's because in an hour and a half's time, we'll be taking you over to the Royal Albert Hall for this evening's Henry Wood Promenade concert, in which you can hear Richard Rodney Bennett's playing Zodiac, and also Brahms's Concerto in A minor for violin, cello, and orchestra. That runs from 1830 till approximately 1929, at which point we join John Tidmarsh for Outlook. And today there's a special edition of Outlook commemorating the sesquimillennium of the end of the Roman Empire. Well, I'm not quite sure how many years that is. I think it's probably 1600. And in today's program, the city of Londinium, Malcolm Billings touring Roman London with archaeologist Peter Marsden. Well, more about that later, because now I gather we can go over to the newsroom for the latest news.
The news read by Terry Lloyd.
My word, after that ordeal, I reckon he deserves a holiday. How about a round-the-world cruise?
I was away 13 months and they circumcised the world.
Perhaps it's not such a good idea. After all, if you do go abroad, you never know what the food's going to be like.
The Capital Territory Health Commission has received a number of reports of Canberra consumers having possession of suspect cans of Sapcol fish products. It's believed they're contaminated by poisonous orgasms.
I wonder what the antidote would be. Then, of course, there's the currency problems abroad. How much is your pound worth, and what would it buy?
According to one source, a small heap of elephant dung weighing about 100 grams was being sold for 5 shillings.
However, if you do go abroad for a holiday, the best bit's coming home and telling everyone all about it.
Did you bring back any trophies, any stuffed heads to go to war?
None at all. I think my wife bought a little black rhinoceros for her sister.
Well, my safari was much quieter. I didn't even bring back any stuffed nurses.
They were, oh, I say that sounds very strange.
Yeah, it does now I come to think of it. Do go on.
Thanks very much. But don't get the idea I've not made my fair share of clangers too. Reviewing a series of programmes at the end of last year on my local radio station, I recalled a glorious tangle 2 colleagues got into with the words Poppy Fund Appeal. In my review, the inevitable happened. I was hoisted by my own petard. What about a few New Year's resolutions for Compass? Carol, John and Prue. Learning to say how Poppy... I've done it. Learning how to say Poppy Fund Appeal might be a good one for starters.
20 minutes then past 11. That gives me a very good chance to remind you of the Poppy Fund, that's what it is, appeal, which is coming up very shortly.
So that's the right number if you'd like to help with the Poppy Fund appeal.
There you go. It happens to the best of us. And to readers of a well-known satirical paper, there's a word coined to cover the sporting clangers that get on the airwaves. Coleman balls. And sport's a major part of almost every station's output. Love it or loathe it, you can't get away from it. So, stopwatch around the neck, starting pistol in the air, we're ready for the frantic pace of this sporting world.
Good evening, this is Phil Tottle welcoming you to another edition of Soccer Final. And straight away, Colin Howlett gets us underway with the Gloucester County League.
I was going to start with the Western League, but
there was a substitution for Rovers when David Stoniforth, who'd been troubled by injury over the weekend, was replaced by David Stoniforth midway through the first half.
And Palmer picking that ball up for Wolves and bringing the ball forward. And Palmer holding the ball and playing it square, and that a good ball to McCall. And McCall playing it forward with his left ball, looking for John Richards.
Newcastle, obviously, in that position, have had a very bad season. But as their manager, what's his name?
Bill McGarry.
But as their manager, Bill McGarry, told Phil Tottle,
they equalised from the penalty for Scots.
And Scotland will be without ASA Hartford against Austria.
Asa? Who? I remember once going out to interview someone, and as I'd forgotten his name, I used the time-honoured dodge of asking him to spell his surname. S-M-I-T-H, came the reply. But football isn't the only sport, though there's some who think it is. People get just as enthusiastic about a host of other sports, such as cricket.
It's going to be snow to the crouching Henry Horton, who looks as if he's sitting on a shooting stick without the shooting stick, if you see it. I mean, he crouches very low indeed, with his posterior sticking out.
And talking about shooting...
The Bampton Gun Club. They're shooting today for the Bampton Pumpkin Club Clay Pigeon Cup.
What about the sport of kings?
4 leading jockeys. 4 leading jockeying. I'll start again. 4 leading jumping jockeys have been warned by the...
Well, he got there by a short head. That's a term used in horse racing and on the dogs. But what exactly is a short head?
The dog's nose should be in front of the eyes.
The dog's nose should be in front of the eyes.
Isn't that classic? I'm certainly glad it's all sorted out once and for all. Of course, these days, the motorised kind of racing's becoming more and more popular.
Bit of Speedway news now, and at the White City last night, the 23-year-old Peter Collins from Bellevue in Manchester won the Speedway's Grand Prix final and a cheque for £1,000.
He is even engaged in appearances in a Cinerama film epic, Grand Prix, in which he and other Grand Prix drivers play themselves.
Being the lounge lizard that I am, I get winded by a strenuous game of chess. So, for me, my kind of sport's strictly the spectator kind.
I'm sitting here waiting for your calls, and you know what I think? I reckon that you're all sitting at home watching Wimbledon. Well, that's no good. I'm not going to play with myself for an hour, so I suggest you get on the phone, and we'll have a great morning.
Finally, for sports fans, a few results that are just coming in.
Well, Norman Cudderford has been following play in our Test Match Special studio. Norman, can you bring us up to date with the sad details?
No, I'm awfully sorry, I can't. How's that?
Well, Pigot's luck was out in the Magnet Cup, but he did have a... I'm making a right mess of this, aren't I?
Oh, I don't know. I've heard worse, I think.
In England, the results of today's matches in the World Cup Soccer... World Cup Soccer Series.
And a note on cricket, and after 2 days' play in the first test in Brisbane... I'll start that again. After 2 days' play in the first test... The first test in Brisbane is evenly poised.
Tennis and former Wimbledon champion Martina Navratilova had a surprisingly easy victory over Andrea Jaeger in the final of the Avon tournament in Seattle. She won in straight sets, 6-2, 6-love.
And that's my kind of sport. But then, I must admit, I know even less about sport than I do about politics.
It looks like a close struggle in Headington Ward, where the retiring Conservative Mrs. Kathleen Ellis faces Labour's Mr. Roger Liddell. Last year, Labour regained the seat by only 149 runs. Iffley Ward stayed faithful to the Conservatives last year, but only by 38 votes.
Before I leave you, from the Dark Continent, a final news flash.
According to one source, a small heap of elephant dung weighing about 100 grams was being sold for 5 shillings. Lion dung, which was rare, sold for twice as much. A disappointed man from Kakamega waited vainly for 2 days, hoping the lions and tigers would excrete.
Well done.
Congratulations indeed to him and all those who struggle through the pitfalls of pronunciation and presentation without slip-ups. But if you do hear any clangers, do let me know.
And from the British Broadcasting Corporation,
goodbye.
Can I Take That Again was devised and presented by Jonathan Hewitt, who thanks all the inadvertent contributors. It was produced by Jonathan James Moore. Thank heavens that's so.
It's just for you, BBC Radio 2.